Hello there. How you doing? Hi, I am your Riyadh Sensei Al Bob, and I'm coming to you on our channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Now, it often takes you a lot to see the truth, and that's why I'm wearing two sets of glasses. Sometimes, I have to wear more. Sometimes, the incandescence of the Luciferian world, I need to wear sunglasses. But for today, I'm in the shadow. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts and souls? The shadow knows. Anyway, so in progress through the magic of you know the media, we are given a non-stop diet of mental vomit. If you were to take everything you see on your screens and slow it down, you would see between the frames the mind control. The history we're given as fact is non-truths. Exactly. When you talk to me, you better put on your spectacles. This is a spectacle. So there is a lot of things going on, but the only truth is love's co-creation. I watch all the stuff. If you go to my playlist, there's all the stuff up there, and everyone is, giving their truth, on YouTube. Now, I would say 98% of it is, basically controlled truth. Anyone who has a gigantic viewership, millions, well, they are it's the dog that wags the tail or the tail that wags the dog. They're just bitches of the powers that shouldn't be, because who owns social media? Who owns media, Media is the message. What we have to do is we have to own our own truth. Got it? We have to own our own truth. And tonight I will do an evening guided meditation. And it will be our own truth. So say we all, right? And that truth is something that you can't lie, because it comes from your Akashic record, and that doesn't lie. Everything in the, illusionary bubble, yes, can lie. But, no. The rest, I'm not going to lie. See it clearly. And in every day and every way, we take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. I was just watching a little bit of V for Vendetta, and that really has some really great soliloquies, Shakespearean, right? And that's why, good old, I put it up on the, anonymous thing on my, playlist, because they both wear the mask. And anonymous is okay, meaning back in the day, in the 70s, there's an artist that used to do, not graffiti, but social commentary art, And I had a friend of mine had a bucket truck, like a utility bucket truck. And I made these little reflective, you know what a gobo is? You know what a Lico is? A Lico is a spotlight. And in theatrical lighting, You have the Fresnel, which gives you light that's spread out. And Alico has barn doors and edges on the inside that you can just make the light appear on what you want it. And then there's a place where you can slide a thing called a gobo. And what that is a cutout of something like a palm tree or whatever, and you can project that image onto the stage. So I made these gobos, and they had lenses and they had images in them. All I did was, because the light, when they changed the street lights from mercury vapor lights to sodium vapor lights, and then to halogen sodium vapor lights, that light was specular. Right? It was like a projector, right? And it had all these lenses on the inside of the thing, and then it had a Fresnel lens. So it had all these lenses that focused the light into the Fresnel lens, and the Fresnel lens would spread it all over the place very brightly. And when I was at Newark College of Engineering, after the riots in Detroit, and Chicago, and Newark riots were bad. The federal government got Newark College of Engineering to, because mercury vapor lights, which is pretty much what everyone had, because incandescent light would, burn at 200 watts. Mercury vapor light would give up 20 times the light at 50 watts. So, but the problem with the mercury vapor lamp, it was mercury that burnt in an envelope, and that was blue light, and the blue light reflected off of white people and made them shine like a spotlight. Whereas blue light going off of black skin made black people disappear in the night. So it'd all be, the cops would run out, all these white guys, and they would light up like they were in a spotlight, and the black guys would be right to them. Couldn't see them. Oops. So they asked Newark College of Engineering to basically create a racist light bulb. A light bulb that could go into a street light that would make black people light up like that. So that's where the sodium vapor light was invented, because the orange-red spectrum of that light makes black people shine in the dark. Racist, But back in the day when I was, artist in New York City, it was still the mercury halogen kind of light, very bright bluish light. So I made this little thing that was like a baseball cap that would fit over the street light, and it would focus all that light into a prism I had that would shine it through this gobo and project whatever I made. The gobo, I had a lot of things where the street light would shine down a dark street, and there would be, hanging men from each. The way I could focus it would make, like if you had that straight long block and you had, 5 or 6 street lights, you would see 5 or 6 people, men, hanging from a rope from those street lights. I also, could focus it so the street lamp across from a bank or insurance company or any of those kind of corporate, General Motors. I once put up, all the way around the General Motors building. That's, I think, on Fifth Avenue. And I projected hundreds of swastikas on the General Motors building, right? And things like that. That, didn't really hurt anything. I didn't spray paint anything. It was just these. And then it, for months, like when I did the General Motors building, they couldn't figure out where that light was coming from, right? Because it was just this little thing. Unless you got up there and looked at the street lights, you couldn't see this thing. Huh? And it still shined the street, still illuminated the street. It's just that it took about 30% of that light and projected this And if it was dark, it would light it up. So I lit the General Motors building up with hundreds of swastikas, right? And the good old J.P. Morgan building, I lit up with pictures of JFK getting his head blown out, right? Things like that, you know, late 60s, early 70s. And then I was off to New Mexico. Anyway, so that's, you know, you got to get creative. So when I did that, a group of people, you know, artist friends of mine, you know, said, wow, that's great. Why don't, you know, we want to start something, you know, so it was this little strange collective, and we started a thing called Ad Busters. And we did stuff like that that basically broke or tried to break the back of advertising. You know, the movie They Live, you know, we were attacking it, but with art, right? And poetry and dance and music. And we did a thing in Central Park at the band shell called the Universal Peace Day. And one of the sisters who were part of this group was a woman named Suzanne. And we did that for 5 years, and we all kind of took a, you know, we're going to keep doing this forever until we bring peace, right? Well, we did it, and it was so, the first time we did it, maybe 100 people showed up. Second time we did it, about 400 people showed up, and it was just after John Lennon was assassinated. And the band shell is kind of across the meadow, sheep meadow, and on the direct opposite side is Strawberry Fields. And Yoko Ono had just gotten the permission to build Strawberry Fields over there in John's thing. And she came to our second one and was like, she was crying, you know, because we had Shinto priests who were part of my master's temple in Hiroshima. When he was a little boy, he was in Hiroshima when they dropped the bomb. And it didn't touch the temple. I mean, the temple was ground zero. It didn't touch the temple. And one reason why a lot of people survived is that the monks went out and brought them into the temple. Anyway, so Yoko was like, just, you know, so she supported that. And so that was about 500. Next year, we had about 12,000. Next year, we had 20,000. In the fifth year, we had 50,000 people in the sheet metal, more than they had for like concerts and John Bovey and The Boss and stuff like that, right? And maybe I'll unearth some photos of that. And that one, I did a art piece where I found these big squares of styrofoam, right? And I glued them all together in the basic look of a dove. And then I sculpted them with a hot wire knife into a really nice dove, right? And I put inside, when I glued them together, I had a metal frame, and the metal frame had a big cable that came out to the top and had a loop. And on the loop, I found at downtown at Radio Row, the Army surplus place, I found these gigantic weather balloons, you know, that filled up, I mean, big weather balloons, not little ones, you know, like 20, 30 feet tall, and, you know, maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, more than that, 1,000 cubic feet, could hold 1,000 cubic feet of helium, each one. And I bought 5 of them. They were like, you know, $10 a piece. They came in a little package. And you cut open the package, you kind of put it out, and it had this little place you could put the hose for the helium. And I got a couple of tanks of helium. And so I tied, and then I was Mr. Mylar in those days. And I had big rolls of it I found in a dumpster. So that's what got me to be Mr. Mylar. And I had, you know, hundreds of strips of Mylar about 5 inches thick and about 20 feet long, right? And I hot glued gunned them to the back of the dove. And I rolled them up and put little Scotch tape on them. And once the dove took off in the wind, it would like unfurl the Mylar very nicely. And so I put 3 of these big helium balloons on the dove and tied it to a tree, a small tree, and it kind of floated up, and there was a cable kind of going down to the tree, and then the other one. So the dove was like, floating 30 feet above the ground, and it was really, really pulling. And I didn't realize how much lift these balloons had. So I just left it there as like, decoration for the event. And so the crowd came in, and this dove, and the dove was pretty big. It was, 20 feet long or so, and the wingspans was, maybe 20 feet. It was a big dove. And basically, so the crowd comes in, and we had poetry and dance, and what's his name, Richie Havens, buddy of mine. All my rock and roll friends came and played, John Cale, lots of known folk, and they lived in the neighborhood, so they just kind of strolled down with their guitar cases and pulled out and played what they wanted to play. And there was this old anarchist guy, I'm back from the day, and he had a great sound system, and he would set up a sound system for anybody who had a good political thing. And then we had, we were hooked up to the internet. This was the mid '80s, and I was doing internet stuff before the World Wide Web was there, but it was mostly for DARPA and universities. It wasn't what it is now. Anyway, so we were doing all this. We were streaming live, and we were all over the world, and the crowd is just having a grand old time, and it's really big. It's almost, I don't know if it had been hit 50,000 by then, but the show had started. The whole, meadow was kind of full of people, and it was just great. And then all of a sudden, this crack sound happened. And what happened, the tug of those helium balloons and that dove on that little tree was more than a little tree could snap, and it snapped off at the base. And it took off, and it flew right over the crowd, just right like 20 feet above everyone's head. And the tree was still attached, and the mylar was fluttering out, and it just went up, 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 and it went across the the Central Park, and by the time it hit, the southerly part of the Central Park, it was probably, I don't know, 400 or 500 feet up in the air, and going up more than going out. And once it kind of got up to a certain above, like the buildings, like maybe, I don't know, 2,000 feet up, it caught the breeze, and it took off towards Kennedy, over the Hudson, over Queens, right, heading towards Kennedy. And it was like, whoa. It was like, whoa. And luckily, the media didn't cover anything we ever did, even though there was 50,000 people there, and we would send up press releases, all kinds of stuff. Nobody showed up. And because this is during the Ronald Reagan days, when he was having all his private wars, Iran-Contra, all the wars, they were having lots of wars. Wars in Central America, all this stuff that Donnie's all upset about, MS-13, and those are all CIA things, all those drugs, all of that, And if you want to know a lot about that, go to Dr. Stephen Greer and the Disclosure. And he has a couple of ones where he really puts it out where all the money for the breakaway civilization is, right? Richard Hoagland describes it. Richard Dolan describes breakaway civilization really well. Catherine Austin Fitz describes the economics. She's an economist, and she was working for HUD, and she found that 3/4 the HUD budget was going out the back door to the secret space program. Right? Anyway, so it's all over there. It's like really big, and it would be nice. What the beauty of Donnie Trump is, he's such a, I can't even find the right adjectives for that guy, but he's no worse than any of the politicians. He's no worse. And the thing about the collusion, it's not left or right, Democrat, Republican, commie, or capitalist. They're all the same. They belong to a fascist oligarchy. you know? And those guys are scared because they have been, you know, just doing away with history on their own. You know, they don't tell anybody what happened. I mean, there have been civilizations only 200 years ago that were greater than Rome. They don't really talk about the Khazarian Empire and that they are the Zionists. You know, they are the Aryans that the Nazis were looking for. You know, the Anunnaki and the term Jews is not the Hebrew nation. It's the guys who had jewelry. You know, the Rothschilds who came to Europe with all this bling and started the banking. You know, they weren't allowed to, you know, represent anything, hold political office, or own anything, but they could have the bling and lend it to the king. And before you knew it, they all, you know, every country on this planet is run by a Rothschild central bank. You know, we have, you know, the Federal Reserve is a Rothschild central bank. And the only countries that weren't run by a Rothschild central bank was Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela. Who did we attack? Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria. Who are we going to have a war with? North Korea and Iran. You know, the interesting thing, people should look at what Muammar Gaddafi did for his people. He gave everyone a house, everyone a job, and he spent a good chunk of the money digging these big, see, water doesn't come from the sky. Water comes from the earth. The planet Earth makes the water. We live on an abundant planet. Our planet manufactures everything we need. And so the water comes from deep and comes up, percolates up, and you know, that's where the rivers and all that, it's not coming from rain. Rain comes from the evaporation from the water coming up from the ground. And it's the most purest, clearest, and if you drink that, that's what will give you health. You know, back in the day, all those guys who lived 900 years, that's the water they were drinking. Not the crap coming out of the sky. That's what people, you know, wash their feet with. Anyway, and same with oil. Oil didn't come from dead dinosaurs. No, sorry. No, it's again, it's a, yes, he was going to, you know, Gaddafi and, you know, what's his name, in Iraq, uh, didn't want to take treasury notes anymore. They wanted to take either the gold dinar or the EU, the euro. That's why they got whacked. Same with Syria. And you know why, you know, we're so, you know, dead set against China is because, you know, their yuan is backed by gold, you know, not ours, you know, ours is backed by nothing. You know, once the dollar stops becoming the euro dollar, forget about it. You know, we're going to be worse than a third world country, you know. People are going to be eating, they're going to be having babies so they can eat them. And so anyway, things are that weird. I mean, and look at China. You know, we're getting all upset that they're taking these little sandbars and building airstrips. Well, we have over 130 bases all the way around China. You know, and we have missiles and bombers and submarines based at them that they can hit China within 5 minutes, right? Yes, the yuan is backed by gold, you know, and that's why we're getting huffy with them. And they're about to say we don't need no stinking oil. We're going to use 0 point energy. As soon as they make that little thing, you're going to see them being attacked by space-based weapons. Now, the scene is, the really sad thing is that the oligarchy, you know, the hidden hand, that is a fascist planetary, you know, cabal, has the Chinese, the Russians, and everybody is part of it. But they're a breakaway civilization. They view their own people just like, you know, those guys view Americans as useless eaters. right? And those cities that they built in China, they're basically for us, because all these nasty earthquakes that have happened in the past, in the last time, may happen on a scale of every 12,000 to 2,500 years, different ones. But we are 70 years to 200 years late for all of them. And it looks like there's going to be a domino effect, out there in California, then the caldera, then, Midwest, then, the Tennessee Valley. It's going to destroy us, but the tsunami that's going to come from that is going to be biblical, and it's go across the Atlantic into Africa and into Europe and across the Pacific and wipe out, the Philippines, Australia, China, all those island nations, Japan. They're just going to be, forget about it, right? It's going to be like that movie, I guess, was it 2012 when they had all the little lifeboats? Anyway, but why hasn't it happened? It's like already, hundreds, if not thousands of years late. Why? Because a higher power has, you know, involved itself. That higher power usually just kind of, some people would call it God, would just watch and not do anything, right? Wouldn't intercede per se. So what is happening is that we're no longer in the Piscean age, the age of getting what you want through violence. We are in the Aquarian age, getting what you need through understanding truth and honesty. Now there's this crossover little period of about 100 years that we're right kind of in the middle of. And it's really like, a little foot race. Who's going to, with this, the really stupid, selfish, self-indulgent little children of the Piscean age who whine, it's all mine, it's all about me, blah, 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 blah. Or the more, folk who are trying to step up their conscious free will and say, no, it's all about all our relations and how we're going to share and love and be a community and, let's have a good time. Let's go to the deep green with Sensei El Bob, get the circus together and take it on the road. So that's where we're at. We're at this place. So it's almost 30 minutes. So at 30 minutes, 30 seconds, I'm going to say, okay, unless you guys want to get into an interesting, there's only, Jamie in the conversation. If we can get a more interesting conversation here, I'll stick around, but otherwise I'll sign off at 30:30 and come back at night, and we'll do a guided meditation where we're going to visualize the not this dystopian prison planet, but a truly beautiful environment of all our relations going home to love's co-creation. And that's not like dying like through end of times. No, it's like stepping up. Okay? So, you got anything you want to say? Let's see. This is the book I'm reading these days. The Science of Mind. And let's read a little section that I was just reading before. Okay, there. Okay, here. Dig on this. The subconscious or subjective is never an entity, although it acts as though it were. The creative medium is a medium only, never a person. It is necessary that we understand this because one of the first things a practitioner has to do is to separate the belief from the believer. From the standpoint of the spiritual man, Disease, poverty, unhappiness, and misery are neither personal, place, or thing. When we give a treatment, the treatment is a spiritual entity in the subjective world. And it has ways and means and methods to project itself, which the conscious mind knows nothing of, and yet it is subject to the conscious thought. Platonius had a clear concept when he said, nature is the great no thing, yet it is not exactly nothing, because it is its business to receive the impressions of spirit. He spoke of that which we call undifferentiated substance as a indeterminate thing having no mind of its own. Its mind is always made up for it. Most of this chapter has to deal with the universal soul, but in another chapter we shall discuss more fully the manner in which man reenacts the nature of God, meaning that egoless ego is love's co-creation, right? And we have to, you know, all the things that we're doing to Mother Earth, to Gaia, the destruction of the air, water, land, the abuse of all the resources and the people on it, will not destroy Gaia. It'll destroy us. And it's, up to us through our love's co-creation to put this off, because we only need 50 to 100 years to get to a place where we won't do that anymore. People, I talk to everybody I can talk to, and everyone has a sense that something's going on, and this is what's going on. So, the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand, the sock puppets, they want to, cause World War III, catastrophes up the kazoo, destroy, because they think it'll kill everyone, and they'll be left, where they won all the marbles. I don't know if they, I've been down in those underground condos. Shit goes downhill. And when you are this gigantic, septic tank, 900 feet underground, where it's like 500 million square open feet down there, I don't know. And there's no air being manufactured down there. It's got to be pumped in from someplace else. I don't know if I kind of looked at it. I've been down there twice working on things, and two different, one in New Mexico and one in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes, up there near Cargill salt mines. There's a salt mine that goes from, Seneca Lake all the way to Ohio. Anyway, so there we are, 33, and I'm going to say goodnight, and I'll see you tonight, 7:30ish, right? I'm going to try and do 7:30ish. Joke? Yep, check me on the rebound. Always well, thanks, Jamie.